Higher interest rates may persist. This is from the Bank of England. Article is from The Guardian. The Bank of England, the B.O.E., Governor Andrew Bailey has hinted that interest rates may stay higher for longer than expected amid stubbornly high inflation. Speaking at the annual conference of the European Central Bank, the ECB, Bailey said it was clear financial markets expected several more interest rate rises. Quote, the market, I don't thinks we're nearly done. At the moment, they've got a number of further increase priced in for us. My response to that would be, well, we'll see. He told the conference in Sinatra, Portugal on Wednesday. I've always been interested that the market thinks the peak will be short-lived. In a world where we are dealing with more persistent inflation, he added, financial markets expect the bank to raise rates from the 5% level set earlier this month to 6.25% by the end of this year, which would be the highest since 1999. The last five, Bailey commented on financial market expectations, was in November 2022, when the central bank had just raised interest rates to 3%, and he cautioned against financial bets would reach 5.25%. Bailey's intervention followed several weeks of turmoil after then Prime Minister Liz Truss' disastrous mini-budget. Inflation has remained stubbornly high since then, leading Bailey and the Monetary Policy Committee, the MPC, that he chairs, to increase rates sharply. In May, inflation was 8.7%, the same level reported in April, and the highest of any major advanced economy. So guys, let's see more. Editors, roll clips. Fair use.
To Christine's point, when we looked at the data, because we too are being driven by evidence at the moment, the cumulative data, both particularly on the labour market and on the inflation release we had, which to us showed clear signs of persistence, caused us to conclude that we had to make really quite a strong move at that point. It was justified. My own view on that was, if we were really of the view that we were going to do 25 and then we were really sort of baked in for another 25 based on the evidence we'd seen, it was better to do the 50. And then we will, as Christine said, we will be evidence-driven, so we will wait for the next set of evidence for our next meeting, which, to Christine's point again, will also be one where we will have a full forecast.
Have you received a lot of flack for the move?
Well, I think at the moment I can understand why there are critics of us and central banks. We have a job to do. I'm very clear that our job, all of us are very clear, I think our job is to return inflation to target, and we will do what is necessary. I understand the concerns that go with that, but I'm afraid I always have to say that it is a worse outcome if we don't get inflation back to target.
The coverage, that we've read about the Bank of England, a lot of the commentary has been pretty negative. But actually, you're saying that compared with what the Fed are doing, compared with what the ECB are doing, actually they're not doing that badly.
Okay, so let me just start by an acknowledgement. The governor of the Bank of England went to my college, but nothing that I'm about to say is influenced by that statement. Look, it's easy to bash the Bank of England. UK inflation is higher than US and European inflation. They have this same inflation target, UK inflation, so they've messed up more. 2, core inflation is going up. But if you were to do what you do at the Olympics, which is you adjust for the degree of difficulty, how actually difficult the situation was and is, then the Bank of England looks the best among the 3 central banks. It acknowledged first that it had made a mistake. It hiked interest rate first, way before the Fed, 4 months before the Fed, and even more before the ECB. It had the most honest communication. There could have been better ways to do it, but it is the central bank that came out and warned that inflation would go up to 13% if the government didn't do something on energy. It is a central bank that warned about wage price hikes. Other central banks have been very political. This central bank has been very technocratic. So it's easy, I understand why people bash it, but for those who actually look at the functioning of central banks and adjust for degrees of difficulty, it has actually been the better in that group.
The handicap score has been
Correct.
slightly better than the others. Let's just talk specifically about the UK. So we're in an interesting time right now. Well, actually, first of all, as someone who still has half a foot in the kind of international world of finance and economists, how would you say we're viewed right now?
I think we're viewed as people who shoot ourselves in the foot. That's how we're viewed. That not only are we in a difficult neighborhood, the global economy, but we tend to complicate life for ourselves. That's how we viewed.
How long do those? And this is partly, obviously, presumably that's partly last year, but is it partly kind of the previous 4 years as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into the Brexit debate, but I do know that in life, you do not dismantle something without knowing what you're going to put in place. Because when you dismantle things, there are massive transition costs. And the outside world says, well, the UK maybe had good reason to exit the EU, but what did it replace it with? I can't answer that question. The hope was a whole series of free trade agreements, but it's not happening with the US. It's not, Europe is still a bit of a mess.
We've got the Atlantic Partnership. Don't forget about the Atlantic Partnership.
Yes, well, maybe. So the outside world looks at the UK and say, okay, so you've decided you're a trading nation, you are a small open economy, that's how it's defined in economic terms, and yet I don't quite understand what your external relations are right now on the trade side, on the investment side. And then they look at us internally and they keep on seeing we sort of trip ourselves up. So I do think, there's a lot that has to be done to allow the UK an equal opportunity to grab these opportunities that are out there.
So what is your advice then to, whether it's the current government or indeed the government that might well be, how do they kind of push this country into the right direction?
Rethink your growth strategy. Have a growth model that works, that isn't reliant on throwing money at it and not investing in what enhances productivity. Appoint a growth czar, someone who is at the level of the Prime Minister's office. There's this notion in the US, the Council of the National Economic Council, which overlooks all the different entities to make sure that there's a common theme that goes across. Growth should be that common theme. Whenever there are policies designed, someone in the room should be asking, what does that imply for productivity? What does that imply for economic growth? So you try to hardwire it into the decision-making process and then accelerate the multilateral interaction. The UK has always punched above its weight on the global stage. And right now, it's punching below its weight on the global stage.
Hey guys, it's Jose, your regular Joe Blow, keeping an eye out and my ears open, moving forward and preparing, saving and looking forward to life, guys. Let's continue to scale and grow wherever possible. Guys, each of us must stay hungry and always strive to be the best. For now, the Bank of England is still on course to try and stop their out-of-control inflation. And like he said, pain is in the works for Great Britain's economy in layman's terms and not slowing down anytime soon. Do your research, and always, guys, thank you for letting me do my best to bring you my best. Stay free.